Christianity, denominations, and how they emerged. Before we begin, let me ask you something. When people talk about Christianity, they often mention Catholics, Orthodox Christians, and Protestants. But many people are not fully aware of how these traditions formed, why they separated, and what truly distinguishes them. This video is made to answer those questions clearly and calmly. In this video, we will cover 5 main points. First, we will look at what Christianity was historically, before denominations existed. Second, we will explain why denominations emerged at all. Third, we will examine the foundations of Catholicism, Orthodoxy, and Protestantism. Fourth, we will outline the key differences between these traditions in terms of authority, interpretation, and structure. And finally, we will look at how these denominations exist today and why they still matter. This is not a debate. It is not an argument. And it is not meant to promote or criticize any belief. Everything in this video is presented from a historical and academic perspective. No denomination is being judged, ranked, or compared as better or worse. The goal here is understanding. If you're interested in calm, factual explanations about history, belief systems, and how societies evolve over time, you may consider subscribing to Truth Sleeps Quietly. Now let's begin from the very beginning. Christianity is a monotheistic religion that emerged in the 1st century of the Common Era, centered on the life and teachings of Jesus of Nazareth. In its earliest form, Christianity did not have denominations. There was no Catholic, Orthodox, or Protestant Christianity yet. Early Christians lived in small communities across the Roman Empire. These communities were spread over different regions, cultures, and languages, including Greek-speaking, Latin-speaking, and later Syriac-speaking areas. At this stage, Christianity was still forming its identity. Core beliefs existed, but many important questions were still being discussed. How should sacred texts be interpreted? Who has authority to teach doctrine? How should leadership be organized? Which traditions should be preserved? These questions were not answered all at once. Instead, they were addressed gradually over centuries through councils, writings, and local practices. It is important to understand that for a long time, Christianity functioned as a single religious tradition with internal diversity, not as separate churches. Differences existed, but they were not immediately seen as divisions. Denominations did not emerge suddenly because people disagreed about faith. They emerged slowly, as Christianity expanded across vast territories and adapted to different historical, political, and cultural realities. Over time, 3 major factors shaped the development of denominations. The first factor was interpretation. As sacred texts were translated and taught in different regions, differences in interpretation naturally developed. Some communities emphasized tradition and continuity, while others placed greater focus on personal understanding and direct engagement with Scripture. The second factor was authority. Who had the final say in matters of doctrine? Was authority centralized or shared among leaders? These questions became increasingly important as Christianity grew and became institutionally organized. The third factor was history and politics. Christianity did not develop in isolation. Empires rose and fell, capitals shifted, and cultures separated. As political power moved from Rome to Constantinople and later to other centers, religious structures were affected as well. It is crucial to clarify something here. Christian denominations did not form because one group was right and another was wrong. They formed because Christianity evolved along different historical paths shaped by culture, language, geography, and political context. Rather than seeing denominations as a simple split, it is more accurate to see them as branches of a long historical process. They share common roots, but developed distinct identities over time. Understanding this context is essential before examining any specific tradition. In the next part of this video, we will focus on the Catholic tradition. We will explore how authority became centralized, why Rome gained prominence, and how the role of the papacy developed. Let's continue. Central authority, the papacy, and institutional structure. To understand Christian denominations, it makes sense to begin with the tradition that developed the earliest and became the most institutionally centralized, Catholicism. Catholicism traces its roots to the early Christian communities, particularly those connected to Rome. The word Catholic comes from a term meaning universal, reflecting the Church's understanding of itself as a universal Christian body. Why Rome became central. Rome gained a special position in early Christianity for several reasons. First, Rome was the capital of the Roman Empire for centuries. As a political and administrative center, it naturally became an important religious center as well. Second, according to Christian tradition, the Apostle Peter is believed to have lived and died in Rome. This belief gave the Roman Church symbolic and spiritual importance. Over time, the Bishop of Rome gained increased respect among other bishops. At first, this role was not absolute authority, but rather a position of honor, often described as first among equals. The development of the papacy. The papacy, as it exists today, did not appear suddenly. It developed gradually over many centuries. In the earliest period, the Pope functioned primarily as the leader of the Christian community in Rome. As Christianity became legalized and later adopted as the official religion of the empire, the Church's institutional power expanded, and so did the role of the Pope. During the Middle Ages, the papacy became not only a religious authority, but also a political force. Popes interacted with kings and emperors, sometimes supporting them, and at other times opposing them. This historical process led Catholicism to develop a strongly centralized structure. Core features of Catholic belief and structure. Catholic theology rests on three interconnected foundations. The first is Scripture, the Bible. However, in Catholicism, Scripture is not viewed as the only source of authority. The second foundation is tradition. Church councils, teachings, and long-established practices are considered essential for understanding and applying Christian belief. The third foundation is church authority. The Pope and the Church's teaching office are seen as responsible for guiding doctrine and maintaining unity. Together, Scripture, tradition, and authority form the core framework of Catholic belief. Hierarchy within the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church has a clearly defined hierarchical structure. At the top is the Pope, who is recognized as the Bishop of Rome and the spiritual leader of the global Catholic community. Below the Pope are cardinals, archbishops, bishops, and priests. This structure allows the Church to operate with a unified system across different regions of the world. This centralized organization has contributed to Catholicism's continuity and institutional stability over time. Unity in Catholicism. Unity is a key concept in Catholic tradition. Catholic communities around the world are connected through shared doctrine and centralized leadership. This global unity has allowed Catholicism to function as a single, organized institution despite cultural and linguistic diversity. At the same time, This strong centralization has also been a source of tension at various points in history. Growing differences between East and West. As centuries passed, differences between Western Christianity and Eastern Christianity became more pronounced. In the West, Latin was the dominant language. In the East, Greek remained central. These differences extended beyond language to theology, church governance, and cultural outlook. Over time, these tensions laid the groundwork for the major separation between Catholicism and Eastern Orthodoxy. The historical role of Catholicism. For many centuries, Catholicism played a significant role in shaping European education, law, art, and politics. Monasteries, universities, and churches became centers of learning and cultural preservation. This historical influence helped shape Catholicism not only as a belief system, but also as a powerful institutional presence. Transition to Part 3. So far, we've examined how Catholicism developed, why authority became centralized, and how the papacy emerged. In the next part of this video, we will turn to Eastern Orthodoxy. Why did Eastern Christianity follow a different historical path? How did its understanding of authority differ? And how did the division between East and West become permanent? Let's continue. Tradition, councils, and the Eastern Christian path. After examining Catholicism and its centralized structure, we now turn to Eastern Orthodoxy, a Christian tradition that developed along a different historical and cultural path. Eastern Orthodoxy traces its roots to the same early Christian communities as Catholicism. However, over time, Eastern Christianity evolved with a distinct understanding of authority, tradition, and church organization. What orthodox means? The word orthodox comes from Greek terms meaning correct belief or right worship. In the Orthodox tradition, this reflects a strong emphasis on preserving the faith as it was received from the early church. Orthodoxy places great importance on continuity, tradition, and faithfulness to early Christian teachings. The Eastern Christian world, Eastern Christianity, developed primarily in regions such as Byzantium, later Constantinople, Greece, Asia Minor, the Balkans, and parts of the Middle East. The cultural and intellectual environment of the East differed from that of Western Europe. Greek language and philosophy played a major role in shaping Eastern Christian theology. Unlike the West, where Rome became the dominant center, the East developed around multiple important cities, including Constantinople, Alexandria, Antioch, and Jerusalem. Authority in Eastern Orthodoxy. One of the most important differences between Orthodoxy and Catholicism is the understanding of authority. Eastern Orthodoxy does not recognize a single centralized authority comparable to the papacy. Instead, authority is understood as shared and conciliar. Major decisions are made through councils of bishops, reflecting the belief that the Church is guided collectively rather than by one office. This approach is often described as a conciliar model of governance. Autocephalous churches. Orthodoxy is organized into independent or autocephalous churches. Each autocephalous church governs itself while remaining in communion with other Orthodox churches. Examples include the Greek Orthodox Church, Russian Orthodox Church, Serbian Orthodox Church, and others. These churches share the same core beliefs and liturgical traditions, but are not governed by a single central leader. Tradition and worship. Tradition plays a central role in Eastern Orthodoxy. This includes the teachings of early church fathers, the decisions of ecumenical councils, and long-established liturgical practices. Orthodox worship is highly liturgical and symbolic. Icons, chants, incense, and ritual movement are integral parts of religious life. Icons, in particular, are not seen merely as religious art, but as visual theology, ways of expressing belief through imagery. Theological emphases, Orthodox theology, often emphasizes mystery and spiritual experience. Rather than defining doctrine in strictly systematic terms, Orthodoxy tends to focus on participation in the life of the Church and spiritual transformation. Salvation is commonly described as a process of theosis, meaning growing into communion with God. This theological emphasis distinguishes Orthodoxy from Western approaches that often focus more on legal or institutional frameworks. The growing divide between East and West over centuries, differences between Eastern and Western Christianity became more pronounced. These differences included language, theology, church governance, and political alignment. Tensions gradually increased, eventually leading to the formal separation between Eastern Orthodoxy and Roman Catholicism in the 11th century. This separation, often called the East-West Schism, was the result of a long historical process rather than a single event. The historical role of Eastern Orthodoxy. Eastern Orthodoxy played a central role in preserving early Christian theology, liturgy, and spiritual practices. In regions such as Eastern Europe, the Balkans, and Russia, Orthodoxy became deeply intertwined with cultural and national identity. Monasteries and churches served as centers of spiritual life, education, and artistic expression. Transition to Part 4. So far, we have explored Catholicism and Eastern Orthodoxy, two traditions with shared origins but different approaches to authority, structure, and worship. In the next part of this video, we will turn to Protestantism. How did the Protestant Reformation begin? Why did reformers challenge existing church structures? And why did Protestantism develop into such a diverse range of movements? Let's continue. The Reformation, core principles, and diversity. After Catholicism and Eastern Orthodoxy, we now turn to Protestantism, a tradition that represents a major transformation in Christian history. Unlike Catholicism and Orthodoxy, Protestantism did not emerge in the early centuries of Christianity. It arose in 16th century Europe, making it the most historically recent of the major Christian traditions. How did the Protestant Reformation begin? Protestantism is closely associated with what is known as the Protestant Reformation. During the 16th century, some theologians and religious thinkers began to question certain practices and structures of the Catholic Church. These concerns were not limited to theology alone. They also involved church authority, economic practices, and the role of clergy. Martin Luther is one of the most well-known figures of this period. However, the Reformation was not the work of a single individual. It developed differently across various regions of Europe. Core principles of Protestantism. Although Protestant traditions vary widely, several common principles are often emphasized. The first is the central role of Scripture. In Protestant thought, the Bible is regarded as the primary and decisive authority in matters of faith. The second is the emphasis on personal faith. The relationship between the individual and God is understood as direct, without the necessity of a mandatory clerical intermediary. The third is the limitation of centralized church authority. Most Protestant traditions do not adopt a hierarchical structure similar to that of Catholicism. Rejection of centralized authority. Protestantism does not recognize a single universal authority comparable to the papacy. There is no central office governing all Protestant communities. Instead, local churches and congregations often operate with a high degree of autonomy. This organizational approach contributed to the wide diversity that developed within Protestantism over time. Diversity within Protestantism is not a single, unified structure. It encompasses a broad range of movements and traditions. Lutheranism, Calvinism, Anglicanism, Baptist traditions, and evangelical movements are among the many expressions of Protestant Christianity. These groups can differ significantly in worship style, church governance, and theological emphasis. What they share is a common historical origin in the Reformation and a critical re-evaluation of earlier church structures. Worship and religious practice. Protestant worship is generally characterized by simplicity. Rituals, icons, and symbolic practices are often limited compared to Catholic and Orthodox traditions. Sermons, Bible reading, and community participation usually form the core of worship services. This simplicity reflects Protestantism's emphasis on personal understanding and direct engagement with Scripture. The historical impact of Protestantism. Protestantism influenced not only religious life, but also the social and cultural development of Europe and beyond. Education, literacy, and individual responsibility became central values in many Protestant societies. These ideas played a role in shaping broader social and political developments. Protestantism in the modern world today. Protestantism exists in many forms across different regions of the world. Its diversity is one of its defining characteristics. Rather than a single uniform tradition, Protestantism represents a flexible and adaptive approach to Christian belief, shaped by historical and cultural context. Transition to Part 5. So far, we have examined the three main Christian traditions: Catholicism, Eastern Orthodoxy, and Protestantism. In Part 5, we will directly compare these traditions side by side, looking at their differences in authority, structure, worship, and interpretation to better understand how they diverge and where they overlap. Let's continue. Authority, structure, worship, and interpretation. Now that we've examined Catholicism, Eastern Orthodoxy, and Protestantism individually, we can clearly compare them side by side. At this point, it's important to remember one thing. This comparison is not about deciding which tradition is better or worse. It is about understanding how and why they differ. Authority. One of the most fundamental differences between these traditions is authority. In Catholicism, authority is centralized. The Pope, as the Bishop of Rome, holds a unique leadership role, supported by a hierarchical structure. In Eastern Orthodoxy, authority is shared. Decisions are made collectively through councils, and no single leader has universal authority over all Orthodox churches. In Protestantism, centralized authority is largely rejected. Authority is decentralized, with local churches or denominations governing themselves. Church structure. These different views of authority naturally shape church structure. Catholicism operates as a global institution with a unified hierarchy. Orthodoxy functions as a communion of independent, self-governing churches. Protestantism consists of a wide range of churches and movements, often organized locally or nationally. Each structure reflects a different historical response to leadership and governance. Scripture and tradition. Another key difference lies in how Scripture and tradition are understood. Catholicism views Scripture and church tradition as closely connected, interpreted through church authority. Orthodoxy also values Scripture deeply, but places strong emphasis on tradition as a living, continuous experience preserved through worship and councils. Protestantism generally emphasizes Scripture as the primary authority, with tradition playing a secondary or supportive role. Worship and religious practice. Worship practices also vary significantly. Catholic worship combines structured liturgy with ritual and symbolism. Orthodox worship is highly liturgical, rich in symbolism, icons, and ancient ritual forms. Protestant worship tends to be simpler, often centered on preaching, scripture reading, and congregational participation. These differences reflect broader theological and cultural priorities. Unity and diversity. Each tradition approaches unity differently. Catholicism emphasizes unity through centralized leadership and shared doctrine. Orthodoxy emphasizes unity through shared faith and communion, rather than centralized control. Protestantism emphasizes diversity, allowing multiple expressions of belief within a shared Christian framework. Historical and cultural context. None of these traditions developed in isolation. Their differences were shaped by geography, language, political power, and historical circumstances. Understanding these contexts helps explain why Christianity developed multiple paths rather than a single uniform structure. Shared foundations. Despite their differences, these traditions share essential foundations. They all trace their origins to early Christianity. They share core beliefs about Jesus, the Bible, and Christian identity. Their differences emerged over time, not at the beginning. Part 5. Transition to conclusion. With this comparison in mind, we can now step back and look at the broader picture. In the final part of this video, we'll reflect on what these differences mean today, how these traditions continue to coexist, and why understanding them still matters in the modern world. Let's move to the conclusion. Why understanding still matters. Throughout this video, we explored how Christianity developed over time, why denominations emerged, and how Catholicism, Eastern Orthodoxy, and Protestantism followed different historical paths. As we've seen, these differences are not about one tradition being right or wrong. They are the result of history, culture, geography, language, and political context. All three traditions share the same roots, evolved under different conditions, and continue to shape the lives of millions of people today. Understanding denominations is not only about religion. It is also about understanding history, institutions, and how belief systems evolve over time. This video was not made to judge or debate, but to provide context and clarity. If this approach helped you see the topic more clearly, and if you're interested in calm, factual explorations of history, belief, and human societies, consider subscribing to Truth Sleeps Quietly. In future videos, we'll continue examining civilizations, historical turning points, and the ideas that shaped the modern world, always from a neutral and thoughtful perspective. Thank you for watching.